It's been called a nightmare bacteria by federal health officials, a superbug that can kill up to half the people who become infected with it in their bloodstreams. Now, about 170 patients at UCLA are learning they may have been exposed to CRE after having endoscopies between October and January.
Well, just when you thought it might be safe to consider America was learning some really hard lessons about health and such, comes word of a superbug in Southern California. But there is good news about a vaccine for HIV. All right, snap on the gloves, get the gown on. Let's step into the lab with the Newsmax Deputy Health Editor, Tate, who joins us here in the studio. Here we are talking about how measles is in an outbreak, how everybody is in a furor about it, and at the facility itself, at a hospital, they expose people to this bug. How could this happen?
Well, this is actually not just one hospital. There have been about half a dozen outbreaks of this particular bacteria tied to endoscopes. These are the devices that are used to go into the digestive system and look for system problems, pancreatic problems, and they are not being properly disinfected between uses between patients.
They're not being cleaned.
They're not being cleaned. The manufacturing instructions call for them to basically be washed and disinfected, but in fact, that's not removing this resistant bacteria. It's called CRE. 7 people have been seriously infected. 2 of them are dead at this UCLA facility because of this bacteria. It's hard to treat. It's resistant to all the antibiotics that are used. And they think that as many as 180 people now have been exposed. But as I say, there have been 6 other outbreaks at other facilities in 47 states over the last 3 years.
Nick, this is frightening because when you go into a hospital and you have any sort of an examination, you are led to believe that they sterilize the instruments, they clean them, they sterilize themselves. This is basically filth is what this is. Somebody didn't clean it properly, so you are being infected with what is left on the endoscope from someone else.
That's right.
Yes?
That's right. But the truth is that the hospital procedures were following the manufacturer's directives precisely. What it appears to be is that this bacterial strain has mutated and it is able to survive what the manufacturers say are the best methods to clean it. So hospitals are now experimenting with other ways to disinfect these devices using gases and other things beyond simple soap and water and disinfection procedures.
So are the hospitals really at fault here, or is it a manufacturer suggestion?
That is unclear. That's what officials are going to be looking at. And in the wake of of these infections now, the UCLA Medical Center and other hospitals are shifting to these higher than standard cleaning procedures to protect people.
All right, 2 stories about HIV. One is a new strain turning up in Cuba.
That's right.
They didn't know about this before?
That's right. This is the first time we're seeing this. Another case of a virus, HIV virus, mutating. It is more lethal. It takes a lot less time for people who have it to progress to full-blown AIDS, about 3 times as fast. Most people who have HIV, it takes about 10 years to develop full-blown AIDS. And of course, the goal of treatment is to keep people from progressing as long as possible. This new strain from Cuba, people go from having HIV to full-blown AIDS in about 3 years. So in many of those cases, people don't even know that they're infected with HIV when they can most effectively be treated before they have AIDS.
Is it possible we didn't know about this simply because of the medical facilities in Cuba and the way that they have health care there?
Yes, that's possible, although it really is true that the Cuban medical system is not a bad system. It's not like many third world countries. I mean, they have doctors who are well trained. So the surprise here is that it was missed. It's possible it's been there and they're just simply, they didn't see it, but they're finding it now.
Meantime, we have a potential AIDS vaccine which, and I hear this quote-unquote, it's air quotes, all HIV strains.
That's right.
Really?
That's correct. The scientists at Scripps Institute, which is one of the major research facilities in the country, have identified a way to basically get muscle cell tissues to generate proteins that interrupt HIV's ability to infect immune system cells. And what happens is HIV infects immune system cells, and then they turn these cells into little manufacturing plants that produce more HIV. And in this case, this particular development allows muscles to be treated in such a way that they produce proteins that keep the HIV from affecting the immune system in that way, effectively preventing it from happening. So it's only been tested in animals and some human tissues, and all HIV strains they've tested it against, it's been effective. Now we'll move to human trials and see if it's as effective.
All right, let's move to something perhaps a little more entertaining for some people here, seeing as marijuana is becoming a little more in use legally across America. There are those people who will tell you that if and when they have ever used marijuana, there is something called the munchies that follows.
I've heard about this.
You've heard about it, of course, where basically you engage, you imbibe, and then you want to go out and have about 27 double cheeseburgers right afterwards.
That's right.
Now we know why.
Now we know why. The research shows that, in fact, marijuana, the active ingredient in marijuana, changes the way your brain works, and we kind of knew that before. But
Shocker.
Right, but one of the things that changes is those appetite receptors in the brain, those brain cells that make you feel hungry. It affects those. We now know how it essentially punches the accelerator on those hunger cells in the brain. And this is not just, news for potheads, on what's happening to you in your brain and why you're hungry. What it really does provide is a way to come up with another mechanism to help people who have appetite problems who can't eat. People who have cancer or getting chemo sometimes lose their appetite. People as they get older lose their appetite. And some of those folks turn to marijuana to boost their appetite. Now we will have a potential other way to figure out how to make that change in the brain without some of the other side effects of marijuana use.
I think you just showed your age by using the word potheads. I could hear somebody laughing off screen somewhere.
Fair enough.
Last minute to go here.
Yeah.
We now have, everybody knows that you should get a workout. I mean, we've talked about this before, but after dinner workouts for diabetics actually help them. How's that work?
That's right. Researchers looked at about 100 people who were obese and have diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and they tracked the fats and the blood sugar in their blood, the sugar in their bloods, and they found that those people who worked out before dinner had some benefits to blood levels and sugar levels in their blood, but those who worked out after were much more effective at lowering fats and lowering sugar. So the idea is, before dinner, maybe you don't want to work out, but after dinner you can really benefit from, you get a better bang for your buck if you go for the workout after a meal.
Do you realize it is not possible for us to do any one of these segments and talk on medical benefits without saying somewhere in there, get some exercise?
That's right.
Every single time.
That's right. Well, there are two things. Everybody eats and everybody moves. And the question is, we should be doing less of the former and more of the latter, eating less and moving more for most of us.
Are you going to then join me then? We go for stand-up desks here?
I'm in.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We've done it once before. I don't want to do it right now because we did it last time and there was absolute furor in the control room. Everybody, my God, Berliner just stood up. Quick, move the cameras.
So I get that petition going. I'll sign it. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. You're going to pay for him?
We'll talk about that later.
That's what I thought you'd do. Hey, don't forget something else here. Learn how to survive the baby boomer financial crisis. We've talked about this with Nick before. The newly released book, Da Vinci's Baby Boomer Survival Guide. All you have to do is go to babyboomers711.com and get your edition. Excellent guide. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Good to see you again.
You too.
All right. From medicine to money, and an interesting question about where you put your money and where you borrow your money from. Bulls, Bears, and Bucks are coming up next when we return.